So it's the results show, week 26, Barclays Premier League. And things got started with the early kickoff on Saturday at Craven Cottage. Now, for any of you who may be wondering about the grounds in the English Football League, I have to say that my first experience of watching a top flight fixture in the old First Division when I was a boy was at Craven Cottage. It's an absolutely beautiful setting to play football. It's on the banks of the River Thames. It's a very small, friendly little ground in a very delightful part of London. So there's a bit of history. Now to today's fixture. Team news, Schürrle was back for Fulham. For United, Solskjaer's rotation continued with Martial and Lukaku on for Lingard and Rashford. Jones and Smalling were the central defensive unit. That's the first time I've seen those two together for a long time. Now to the match. Well, in the early minutes, Fulham on the front foot. Viatro missed a golden chance from 6 yards early on. Schürrle was looking very sharp, and United's defence was looking a little lethargic. After 3.5 minutes, Mitrovic's header blocked by Jones. And in the early stages, some nice touches from Pogba, although he did look a little cute. Got to minute 14 and a delightful piece of play between the Frenchman, Pogba, anticipating the pass on the left side of the penalty area, and he hit a ferocious left foot shot that whizzed past the keeper, Rico. I think Rico was expecting a cross and left his near side vulnerable, and he paid dearly. So Pogba on the score sheet again, 1-0. Mitrovic had a little fracas with De Gea not long after that, which left De Gea in the wars a little. But then United doubled their lead on 22 minutes. Ball cleared out of defence. Martial picked the ball up inside his own half, turned and galloped off. He managed to beat 2 defenders and then outran the last one before slotting the ball calmly into the right corner past Rico. An absolutely great solo effort, and United in the driving seat 2-0. So we then got to minute 40, and Jones managed to get into the box, and his left foot effort was tipped over the bar by Rico. We don't often see Jones up there, but it was a good effort from him. Then Chambers had a shot just before the break, which easily covered by De Gea. So 2-0 at the break. After half time, the first 10 minutes pretty quiet, and then on 63 minutes, a break by Lukaku managed to get into the box. A neat little flick to Mata, who seemed to lose control of it, but at the same time, Matson managed to bundle him over, and the referee pointed to the spot. Guess who? Pogba, with his typical little jinking run, put it in the corner, and it was 3-0. After that, Mitrovic had a header which made De Gea busy. McTominay came on for Pogba on 73. Martial also replaced by Sanchez. And Sanchez had a couple of efforts. He forced Rico's save on 74. And then a great cross from him. McTominay's header, though, just over the top. And then on 76 minutes, the first real golden chance for Fulham, and somehow Babel managed to hit a post when he was just a yard out. That was on minute 76. The game really petered out there, although there was another scuffle on 89 minutes between Mitrovic and De Gea. I don't know what all the fuss was about, really, but we ended up at a 3-0 scoreline. Solskjaer's great run continues. United are now into the top four, ahead of Chelsea, and Fulham are staring at relegation. So to Anfield, Liverpool stumbled of late with 2 draws away to West Ham and at home to Leicester. Were looking to get back on track. Bournemouth were in town. Wijnaldum was in for Lallana, but that was about it. The 3 big guns up front for the Scousers. An early chance then for Fraser for Bournemouth. It was saved comfortably by Alisson, however. That was within 80 seconds. Liverpool took control of the match, and on 23 minutes, following a nice piece of play on the right, Milner's cross was anticipated by Mane, and his header went in, and they were 1-up. There was a suggestion of offside. It was very marginal, although Eddie Howe did point it out in post-match interview. On 34, Robertson, a great pass to Wijnaldum, who kept his cool and audaciously lifted the ball over the defender and Boric into the net. And Liverpool were in the driving seat, 2-0. That was about it. Salah was denied an effort towards the end of the first half. So 2-0 at the break. Then on 48 minutes, Keita found Firmino, whose audacious back flick was put right in Salah's feet, and he finished exquisitely with his left foot curling shot into the corner. 3-0 and game really over. Liverpool continued to create many chances. Mane headed wide. Salah had a good effort, and Firmino missed a good chance. It could have been more, but they cantered to the finish line. Easy win for Liverpool, 3-0. How very disappointed. So to the Amex, Brighton versus Burnley. And Burnley have been are unbeaten in their last 6 on the crest of a wave. In contrast, Brighton only 1 win in the last 10. Well, once we got started, Brighton were really up for it, and an early header by March was pushed over by Heaton, and Heaton again made a great save to deny it. Gross. Then Duffy managed to slice the ball against his own crossbar, and Barnes' follow-up for Burnley also grazed the bar. Heaton was forced to make another save from March, and that was all within the first 20 minutes. Brighton somehow having failed to hit the net. And then on 29 minutes, after a defensive slip, Woods got in on the act and converted for 1-0. That was very much against the run of the ball. It remained 1-0 to Burnley at half time and into the second half, and then Brighton were blatantly denied a penalty for an obvious handball. And then ironically, on minute 67, Wood completed his brace after he pushed the ball in off Ryan's gloves into the corner. A little later, a breakaway by Ryan, and he was pulled down by Barnes. And a breakaway by Barnes, pulled down by Ryan, and Barnes jumped up and made it 3-0 from the penalty spot, which was a bit of a pill to swallow for Brighton fans, having been denied earlier. Well, at 3-0, the game was really over. Duffy did get a late consolation on 76 to reduce the deficit, but Chris Hughton was really upset at the penalty denial. And in contrast, Sean Dykes was absolutely jubilant. Final score, Brighton 1, Burnley 3. John Smith Stadium then, Huddersfield versus Arsenal. I watched highlights of this, and I must admit it looked a pretty disappointing watch. So let's go through it anyway. Puncheon, a recent acquisition in the transfer window, was making his debut for Huddersfield. But Arsenal on the attack, early ascendancy from then on 14 minutes away, we collected a ball across the box. He connected reasonably well, but it did deflect into the corner, and the Gunners were 1-up. Shortly after that, Huddersfield seemed to be denied a penalty when a shot was fired at Koscielny's hand, but the referee waved it away. Then a minute before the break, Lacazette managed to connect to Nathan Miles's cross, and it was 2-0 to Arsenal. The second half, few half chances for Huddersfield. Depotre hit a shot wide on 80 minutes. 93, a consolation goal for Huddersfield. It eventually went in off Kolasinac, so it was classified as an own goal. There was some confusion in Arsenal's defence. They ended up winning it 2-1, but it was hardly a classic performance. And Huddersfield, well, we know they're heading for the Championship. So to Selhurst Park, a London derby, West Ham the visitors. Will Saha's was back for Palace following that red card. And for West Ham, Arnautovic was on the bench. He'd sorted out that contract problem, was staying, of course, but Pellegrini decided to leave him on the bench. Early action, and Palace dominant. Saha put MacArthur through, and his effort was saved by Fabianski. Then, against the run of play, really, the goalkeeper for Palace managed to collide with the advancing Antonio. The referee ruled it a penalty kick, and Noble converted, and so West Ham were 1-up. Late in the half, Benteke had a glorious chance to equalise, but he's certainly in need of a goal. His shot was saved by the keeper. So that was 1-0 at the break into the second half, and it was all Palace. They missed chance after chance after chance. MacArthur should have scored from a few yards. Kelly headed over from 5 yards, and then Bashaway on as a substitute also managed to put a shot wide. Finally, on 76 minutes, Saha managed to grab the equaliser after he managed to squeeze the ball inside the post and keeper with a defender sort of about to tackle him. It was deserved for Palace, but Saha really should have got a second near the whistle, but Fabianski managed to push it wide. So all in all, it was a result which flattered West Ham. But the final score then, Crystal Palace 1, West Ham 1. So to St Mary's, Cardiff were the visitors. This was a bit of a relegation battle. There was another tribute to Salah before kick-off. His body had been found in the channel, in the plane. And so once again, a very emotional start. Anyway, to the game. Warnock's 100th Premier League fixture as governor. First half, Southampton very much on top, but they didn't really create any really great opportunities, although they certainly had the lion's share of the ball. So to the second half then, on 69 minutes, Bamba managed to get his head to a corner, meeting Patterson's header, and the Cardiff were 1-up. Now, after that, Saints went in search of an equaliser. There was one incident where Cardiff defenders and goalkeeper frantically blocked 3 efforts from Southampton attackers, and one wondered what they had to do to get the ball in the net. Anyway, we then arrived to added time, 91 minutes, and Austin's flick was met by Stevens, who prodded it home from a yard, and Southampton were level. We all were thinking, well, that's that. They've grabbed a point. But Cardiff had other ideas, and on minute 93, Zaha snatched a winner after a right mess in Southampton's box. And the crowd went crazy at the Cardiff end. Cardiff had won the match by 2-1. Warnock was ecstatic, as you can appreciate. Hasenhuttl not so. First of the Sunday's matches, we were at Wembley for Spurs against Leicester. Vardy surprisingly on the bench. They put Gray up front. Llorente and Son were up front for Spurs, and we're still without Dele Alli, and of course the lengthy absence of Kane. Into the action then. After 2 minutes, quick attack, Rose on the left. His cross found Trippier, but his shot was blocked. 7 minutes, a free kick on the right, and Maguire managed to lose his marker Llorente, and his header was forced over by Lloris. 8 minutes, another chance for Leicester when Barnes pulled his shot wide when free in the box. It was an attacking game, easy on the eye, and Son also looking sharp, but he was booked for diving midway through the half. Then on 30 minutes, Barnes again from the red found space, but he pulled another shot wide of the post. 32 minutes, the opening goal, and it was a delightful one. Following a Trippier corner that was pushed out to the waiting Ericsson, his cross was pinpoint, and arriving at the back stick, Sanchez diving header hit the back of the net. 1-0 to Spurs. They relaxed after that, but Leicester were still going forward, but they were lacking that cutting edge up front. I wonder why. Tillman, scorching cross, was steered round the post by Lloris, and that was the last act of the first half. Into the second half now. On 50 minutes, Gray's poor header in the box should have tested Lloris. Leicester were creating those chances, but there was no Vardy. Why? Well, on 54 minutes, another effort by Gray, which was better, but Lloris saved comfortably. 3 minutes later, Maddison was brought down in the area after a sharp break, and amazingly, Vardy was brought on as a substitute and marched up to take the kick. First touch then. Unfortunately, Lloris anticipated his shot and the penalty was saved. Then 63 minutes, Leicester paid for that error. A great strike from Eriksson found the corner. So they were in the comfort zone now at 2-0. However, minute 75, finally, Vardy managed to anticipate a cross, a clip ball from the right, and from 4 yards out, he got a goal back for the Foxes. Minute 81, another snapshot from him flew over. But Leicester was still pressing for the equaliser. However, on time, 90 minutes, they were subject to a breakaway, and Son, from inside his own half, anticipated the through ball, ran through, and he does know how to finish. He whacked the ball past Schmeichel, and that was it. It was all over. Spurs had won by 3-1 and maintained their pressure at the top in third. So to the match of the round at the Etihad, and Chelsea, now back in 5th place, were the visitors. City basically needing to play catch-up again. Chelsea had the early possession for the first couple of minutes, but then from virtually City's first attack on 3 minutes, Sterling managed to sweep in a cross from Bernardo Silva, who hadn't been picked up from a free kick. He was in acres of space, and he ran to the byline, clipped the ball across, and Sterling ran in, and his finish was clinical. So 1-0 for City. 7 minutes on the clock, and on the other side of Bernardo was also causing havoc, and his cross amazingly was missed from 2 yards by Aguero. Great approach work from De Bruyne to set up Bernardo. Then a good run by Hazard on 11 minutes, but it was easily dealt with by Ederson. And then on 12 minutes, Aguero managed to pick the ball up from about 35 yards, and he was obviously feeling miffed after that. A chance went begging. He absolutely hit a rocket which hit the top corner. Absolutely no chance for Kepa, and 2-0 was the scoreline. 5 minutes later, an horrendous headed back pass by Barkley to his keeper was anticipated by that predator Aguero, and he pounced and connected, and the ball went in the corner, and it was 3-0 to City. Well, could it get worse for Chelsea? Yes, it could. On 24 minutes, another City attack, and Gundogan hits the corner for 4-0. The defending was absolutely dreadful. No pressing whatsoever, and Gundogan delighted. So, game over, 4-0. After that, what could we say? Well, some nice possession from Chelsea. Higuain. Sorry, have I got that pronounced? Higuain. Yes, he managed to test Ederson's hands, but Ederson dealt with it. We got to the break 4-0, and to be perfectly honest, the second half was a damp squib. However, Azpilicueta managed to push Sterling over, which enabled Aguero to add his third and his hat-trick, which meant that he'd now scored as many hat-tricks as the record hat-trick taker, Alan Shearer. I'm not quite sure how many. I think it's 7. But anyway, a further strike by City completed the scoring. Amazingly, they had won this match by 6-0. Sarri could be under pressure now, as we all know that Abramovich is not too tolerant when Chelsea's results go astray, and particularly as there seems to be problems with the dressing room. I can see Sarri heading for the exit door fairly soon. So the last match of this round, and it was at Molineux, a Monday night match, of course. They were at home to Newcastle. Newcastle have been improving of late. Wolves, of course, currently in 7th. 16 minutes, a penalty appeal, Jimenez, but it was denied by the referee. Newcastle were feeding on scraps, really, from long range, which weren't troubling the keeper. Dubravka saved on 34 minutes, and a tame effort from Rondon on 39, but then he had a great chance on 44, but he managed to sky it over the bar, so it was goalless at the break. Shortly after the second half started, Doherty missed a golden chance to open the scoring, but then on 55 minutes, a great move by Newcastle. Shah put the ball into the box. Hayden ran onto it, and I don't know what Patricio was up to, but Hayden hit a shot inside his post. Patricio did get a touch, but only managed to push it into the corner, and he looked a forlorn figure after that. But Newcastle weren't complaining; they were one up. Then we got to the last minute, and there was a situation where the ball was hit in by Traore from the right. It was a real up and under. Somehow Dubravka was out jumped by Bolly. He claimed he had been knocked off the ball, but Bolly managed to head the ball home, and the referee awarded a goal. So Wolves had miraculously escaped with a draw. Final score then, Wolves 1, Newcastle 1. So that means that we are as we were at the top. City ahead on goal difference, slightly better now, of course, after that 6-0 hammering. Fulham's loss means that they're heading for the trap door, I feel. And Southampton back into the bottom 3. Cardiff out of the bottom 3. The goal of the week. Well, I've got to give it to Aguero. That second goal of his was an absolute peach. And what a goal scorer that man is. I still, for the life of me, can't understand why he had so little time in the World Cup for Argentina. Big error of judgment, I think, by the coach there. So that's it for this week.